Hi again, everyone. Let me continue what I left behind this morning. Again, because on the photoelectric effect, when the light hits on the electron, in one half of the cycle, it pushes the electron toward the nucleus. In another half cycle, it enables electron to move away from the nucleus. And the back and forth movement of the electron at the source, therefore, will be synchronized by the electron at the cathode with the same back and forth movement. But if after each cycle movement, the electron, for example, when it moves to the there's no pointer though. Okay, that's all right. If the electron at the source move from position 1 to position 2, the electron at the cathode move accordingly from 1' to 2'. In the next half cycle, it will move from 2' to 3'. Okay? If the distance from 2' to 3' has extra length, Nd, and then the electron is moving away from the cathode. After many cycles, and many Nd accumulate and making the distance away from the cathode bigger and bigger. Eventually, that electron is able to fly away from cathode, and the applied voltage will help the electron move away from the cathode even easier. Okay. Again, in this picture, we say that because of the size of the ether particle, the electron during its movement can stay at a certain distance from the nucleus, and then it makes the measurement of some physical quantity with discrete value. Here's an analogy how continuous energy convert to discrete energy. When this ball is hit moving upward along this slide, the energy can be any quantity in an interval, continuous interval. But when it rolls down, it may get retained by the peck or one. Sorry, I can have the pointer. Okay. And I need a pointer back.
Would a laser pointer do?
No, he just has to click on laser pointer there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, when the ball rolled back and retained by one, it cannot go any further. However, when the pack 1, 2, 3 disappear at the same time, it will roll down. But the energy you measure, the kind of the energy you measure, must be one fixed value. Next time when it roll back, suppose the pack 1 is not there, but only pack 2 retaining the ball. When the 2 and 3 disappear at the same time, the energy at the bottom of the slope will be measured with another fixed value. Same happened to pack 3. That's how continuous energy going up can coming back with discrete value. Okay? The same happen in this situation, because the electron can only reach a certain position. Okay, that those quantum speed makes the energy to be read in quantum discrete quantity. Okay.
You need to change?
Yeah, change to the next, please.
Which one? This one?
Let me see, nuclear. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Keep going.
Okay, because of the ether, and I think it puts the both the atomic theory in trouble, because according to the Bohr's theory, the more electrons we have with one atom, the more complicated the spectral line diagram should be. However, with an element thorium, which has atomic number 81, the spectral line diagram is very simple, almost only one line here. Okay, sorry. Okay, previous I did not show the picture, sorry. Right now, you can see it. With helium, the spectral line is very complicated, but with thorium, you have only one single line. Okay. And with respect to nuclear, the NC, electron can move in two types of movement. One type, I call it horizontal movement. It can go across several nuclears. The vertical movement would be something toward the nuclear and the nucleus, or away from the nucleus. Overall, this movement are the combination of these two. The more an electron is close to the nucleus, the more dominant the vertical movement will become. We have gamma ray, we know what it is. Those are the light wave generated by the electrons, staying very close to the nucleus. And the reason they can keep a distance from the nucleus is because the high pressure of the ether makes an ocean floating the electron, so that the electron has to keep a certain distance from the nucleus. In this diagram, I plot the volume of the atoms versus the atomic size, the atomic size of the chemical element versus the atomic number, and you can see how they go up and down, and almost on every peak is the element of the first group in the periodic table. And then I also plot their magnetic susceptance versus their atomic volume. The red line means the diamagnetic element. The blue line means the paramagnetic elements. You can see that those ferro magnetic elements are at the bottom of the line, and also has the smallest atomic volume. Okay, and in this line, you can tell that the hydrogen is a diamagnetic element. It means that one proton has the diamagnetic property. But when neutron is added, gradually that element will become paramagnetic. Here, lithium make it paramagnetic. Here, the oxygen make the element paramagnetic. And in other words, the proton and neutron fight the dominance about the magnetic properties. When more neutrons are added, the element will become more and more paramagnetic. You can see that the blue line, the magnetic line, is increasing in length, but gradually the diamagnetic line is shortened. It very obviously tells us that the nucleus has layer structure. With the neutron tend to go to the center of the nucleus, that the proton has a tendency to stay at the outskirt of the nucleus because of the distance and the number, the quantity of the neutron. It makes the element, it determines the element's magnetic properties, and whether which one dominates, and I believe that the neutron shows more and more dominated. Okay, this is too much reading. I'm not going to go in detail on that. This box with square means that the magnetic property of the element is not clearly determined. I cannot find the very firm data about it property, so that I skip it. I just put a question mark here. Right? But on the other hand, from this we can conclude that the magnetic property of a material is determined at the nucleus level, not at the electrons level. Electrons movement almost has nothing to do with the material's magnetic property. Yes, when it turns, it shouldn't express a certain magnetic property, but however, compared to the dominance of the neutron or the proton, the electrons' magnetic moment is nothing. So this is what I said here, that magnetic property is the source of the magnetic property is the nucleus, is not from the electron. So conventionally, we believe that the proton and the electron are compactly packed together, but in my view, it's not so. They have certain layer distribution, and a lot of times, one proton and one neutron will go as a pair to join the group, and this line is a geometrical indication. It's not a real thing to exist. So now, why the neutron and proton have magnetic property? Here is my conjecture. Suppose we have a cylinder and it can be cut into two halves like this with a pair of helix. And because the compactness of the ether particles, they must be pressed themselves against on this inner surface of the two half cylinders, and because the ether particle itself carry certain helical geometry, and if this cylinder also cut half by a pair of helical line, the helical running direction of the ether particle will be reinforced. So this line I'm indicating that how the ether particle will distribute themselves, align themselves against on the inner surface of this split cylinder. And if this cylinder can line them up end to end, we get the geometrical shape, almost like a drill bit. And this drill bit will further reinforce the alignment of the ether particles. And this, I showed how a pair of helical can form a ribbon of helical ribbon if they are 180 degrees out of phase. And this should be the base for how DNA develop their spiral structures. When the ether is pressed on the splitting half of the two cylinders, they will line up either more toward this way or toward this way. Just like over here, that this circle represents one ether particle. When it is pressed against this surface, it will either line up on this way or line up in this way easily, because if they line up in a vertical line, and the pressure will not make them rest there easy, okay? But if the ether particle line in this way or this way, it will make their make the screw thread. We mentioned earlier on with the screw thread, you make them the screw that thread harmonic to each other or disharmonic to each other. If disharmonic to each other, they will repel each other. So, if this cylinder and this cylinder can line up, that happens only to neutron, because protons themselves have electrical repelling force. They cannot, those twin cylinders cannot stay together and reinforce each other. Okay, neutron can, but proton cannot. The element tin provide us the most supportive evidence that atomic size affect the magnetic property of an element. White tin has a smaller magnetic, smaller atomic volume, so it is paramagnetic. But gray tin has a bigger atomic volume, and it becomes a diamagnetic material. Now I want to further state why the nuclear energy is so formidable. Suppose we already have one particle over here, a neutron, a proton, we call nuclear anyway, and it's packed, swarmed by the ether particle over here. Within this range of radius d, if we inject another particle here, the volume v, that much of ether must be expelled, displaced from this volume. Okay? When this gray portion of ether particle is dispelled, that much of energy is required. Decay is constant, and y is constant. I explained it this morning. Okay, this v just the volume of this particle. 4 pi d squared is the surface of this sphere. With this setup, we calculated the intrinsic pressure of the ether should be this value. With the analysis we derived for gravitational force, this power is 17. Now, with the energy we with the short distance combination, we get to this value, to 21 power. It means 10,000 times higher than the gravitational energy. Here's another mechanism. When two bubbles combine together, it will this bubble will be 2V. When each bubble is created, it needs energy E, but when they combine it together, the energy it retains is 1.26 E. Because if you create a bubble from 0 to this volume, that's the energy required, 1.26 E. Then there is extra energy you need to release. Okay? And besides this mechanism, there's another mechanism. I said we'll consider later. I would say it over here altogether anyway. When this bubble is ejected into this big bubble, this bubble has to shake off the swarm of the ether particles that it originally carried. Because suppose this V is far away from this big bubble, by itself, it is a swarm by the ether particle, because the ether particle has such a high pressure, and it nuclear. Okay, when they are single or joining other nucleons, it must be swarmed by a certain amount of ether particle. No clear can be free of ether particle. just like what I said here. Okay, this neutron in a neutron star has to be separated by a distance of 100 times or their size. Okay? And why? It's because the ether particle has insanely high pressure, and the ether particle in between has formed the most compact material layer, and nobody can break that. Okay, you have to supply very, very high energy to break this. Otherwise, those ether particles just stay there as an armor layer, okay, separating these two neutrons. So in the ordinary matter, it's even more so because, for example, for alpha particle, there's always some armor layer of ether particles separate those nuclei by a certain distance. Okay. Suppose the gray area is very big, and there's ether particle all full of it. Okay. So now, force pair A is strong force is obvious according to our previous analysis, and here is a certain thickness of armor layer of ether particle. Why the armor ether particle can be formed? Because ether pressure also has this direction, pushing the armor, the ether to in this direction, so that the armor cannot be broken. Okay, and separating the particle 1 and 2. So then actually, force pair A and force pair B are competing. Okay. However, because in some situation, sometimes force pair A may win. Okay? And this, for some reason, the structure between 1 and 2 collapse. And then the armor effect, okay, will push the smaller particle B and C away. Radiation, nuclear radiation happens because the strong force and the weak force fight, and the weak force lose. If we have nucleus, for example, or some marble, whatever, form like this circle, according to our previous analysis, the pressure, the intrinsic pressure at region 1 should be bigger than 2. 2 is weaker. 3 is even weaker because it is surrounded by so many particles. Okay? And so when we come to this, look at this aggregate, inside in the space inside the aggregate has the weakest pressure of ether particles, or the ether fluid, and it creates a potential for this aggregate to implode. When the implosion happens, the aggregate will split into 2 groups or even 3 groups. Yeah. Okay. So now let me move to the last slide. The last. Click the view first.
We're going to get, let's stop it, hold on.
Okay.